Hello everybody, and welcome back to the world of Soulcalibur. My time playing Soulcalibur 6 has been incredible. I loved playing the game with Kane and playing it by myself offline. Just collecting all of the points in order to unlock more cosmetics was so addicting to me. I wish more fighting games did that. But yeah, a lot of things have been happening, so I haven't had the time to get around to this. Finally, today, right now, I do. I want to learn much more about this world and how it came to be, and I guess how we end up resetting it in Soulcalibur 6 eventually. But you never know. There might be certain plot threads within this original line where they call upon it in Soulcalibur 7, which is definitely going to happen, right guys? But anyways, if you guys for some reason haven't already, please go and support the Black Macedonchi. I think that's how you say his name. I don't recall exactly how you say his name. I just recall that I said it incorrectly last time. But yeah, the link to that will be at the very top of the description, like always.
With the release of Soul Edge, Namco proved that they can make a solid weapon-based fighting game. But Soulcalibur set a new standard, earning incredible review scores and
so
even
good.
landing as Metacritic's second best game of all time. So how was it?
I mean, this is also me playing Soulcalibur 6. I haven't really truly experienced the older Soulcalibur games, which may be better or worse. Some of you guys, I recall from the previous video, did tell me about how I would 100% love that whole strategy game thing in Soulcalibur. I forget which Soulcalibur game that was, but there was a whole RTS section to it too. Some really neat ideas going on here.
The team going to follow up on this masterpiece? More importantly, how are they going to continue the insane narrative they concocted? What's going on, folks?
Oh, speaking of insane narratives, I definitely mentioned it in the last video, but I absolutely love how Siegfried isn't just the knight in shining armor. He is kind of a fuck up. That dude has issues, but it also just makes him a lot more interesting to me. What I do recall being kind of puzzled by is Ivy's whole motivation, which I think might be a bit dodgy. I don't know if it's fully explained or, if it's explained differently and so it makes more sense that way. Not too sure on that. But yeah, the whole I'm searching for the soul edge, so I work for this guy with a demon sword with an eye on it and don't think that's a soul edge kind of thing was a little bit funny to me.
And welcome back to the Soulcalibur lore mini-series. Name still pending. In an effort to pay homage to this legendary franchise, I'm explaining the full history and lore of the entire series. Last time we talked about how everything started with Soul Edge and Soulcalibur. Now, we're moving to the third game. The one that introduced a feature that would shake this series to its core. Guest characters. I am your humble lore professor, the Black Macedonchi, and this is the complete story of Soulcalibur 2.
Soulcalibur. The music in these games are so epic as well. I love them so much. Kane described it as Fire Emblem plus Fire Emblem. That made no sense, but I kind of understood what he meant. Perfecting perfection. How do you do that?
2001. In an IGN interview with series producer Hiroaki Toriyama, he explained how he wanted to evolve the franchise with this entry. We try very hard to balance out consumer demands and what we want to accomplish as a developer. I hope this game will expand the definition of a 3D fighting game in terms of its freedom involving the usage of space and weapons. One of the skills they relied on was a technique they called motion blending. This involved combining two separate movements into one. Take Ivy, for example. The team noticed that having her walk while swinging her whip, or in a fighting stance, looked way more aggressive than her just strolling towards the opponent. So they'd have the top portion of her body do the action they wanted, while the bottom part ran or walked. Then they'd fuse them, giving us the fluid motion you see here. Additionally, they made the relationship between the vertical slash, horizontal slash, and run more apparent.
I wonder if this is why, initially when we got into the games, it felt a lot harder to see certain moves than it would be in, the 2D fighting games that we're used to. Even though those moves are technically, a lot longer, should be a lot easier, but it's your eyes and then your brain doesn't really receive the motion because it all just sort of blends together. It feels, I suppose, a little more realistic than a character shifting animations into doing a known animation that where okay, that's an overhead. If I block that, then they're going to be negative. It's probably something that we'll get used to over time as we play more 3D fighters. But yeah, it's just that sort of perception towards the movement is completely different, at least to me as a beginner.
They even brought back the extra weapons feature from Soul Edge/Soul Blade. However, I'd argue that these enhancements, while important, were only a small part of what made this title special. See, Namco was moving towards a multi-platform strategy at the time, so when it came to home consoles, Soulcalibur 2 was set to release for the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. And to spice things up, each version would get a special guest character. For GameCube players like yours truly, we got Link, specifically the Hero of Time from Ocarina of Time. The team saw the one game that beat them on Metacritic and was like, yo Nintendo, if you down, we can do the coolest thing ever. But with how rare it is to see Nintendo characters pop up in non-Nintendo IPs, you're probably wondering how Namco even landed this deal. Well, back in 2002, the two companies collaborated with Sega to design an arcade board based on the GameCube. Its main purpose was...
I wonder if Nintendo back in the day was just a lot more chill about that, or if they were still like sticklers to the degree that they are currently. Maybe their tone is different when it comes to like big company plus other big company, as opposed to big company versus smaller company or content creator, stuff like that.
To facilitate the development of arcade ports for home console games. And guess what they called this new piece of tech? The goddamn Triforce. Three gaming powerhouses named their group project after the three strongest triangles in gaming history. That's too cool not to be planned. Nintendo must have been waiting for a moment like that. Unfortunately, few games came from it, but thanks to this joint venture, Link found himself in the SoulCal world. And to Namco's credit, they went in to make sure they properly paid homage to his series. Many of his iconic moves like the spin attack made it into the game. Namco also included various weapons that he used within the many Legend of Zelda titles. Their original effects even inspired how they functioned. Take Bigoron's sword. In Ocarina of Time, it was the strongest sword you can get, and it had a lot of reach. However, because of its size, Link had to use it with two hands. To mimic that, in Soulcalibur 2, it also gained the reach and power buff, but it slowly drained Link's health since he was tearing through his stamina swinging it with one arm. All this did kind of break the Link canon because they were pulling weapons from all over the timeline, but he looked dope as hell, and that's what matters.
I suppose that's kind of the only way you can do that without completely changing the character's animations depending on the weapon that they're using. You could probably do that, but you have to also consider the level of technology back in the day and certain limitations. It's a pretty good way, though, to introduce a negative to the positive. Because, you know, fighting game characters, they have to be balanced around being weak in certain areas and being strong in others. It's when there are characters that are just good at everything where the meta starts to become completely unbalanced. Which I'm sure just by mentioning that, you guys can probably think of a few characters in certain fighting games that fit that sort of bill.
For the Xbox, one would think they go for Master Chief. However, back then, Halo was still a pretty new IP. If they were putting a big name like Link in the GameCube version, they needed someone more established. Enter Todd McFarlane.
Going for Guilty Gear music with this?
This guy is one of the greatest comic book creators alive. He worked at both DC and Marvel before teaming up with other creators in the industry to establish Image Comics in 1992. This is when he introduced the world to a character he developed all the way back when he was 16. Spawn, the government assassin turned anti-hero from hell. While Soulcalibur 2 was being developed, Todd sought to design a game for his cherished creation. This led him to Namco. Originally, a possible Spawn video game was at the center of their discussion, but the conversation shifted to toys, as the comic creator also owned a toy company. Then their chat led to one about Spawn joining the Soulcalibur 2 roster. The character was already very popular in the States and had a decent following in Japan. Since the Xbox also had a strong fan base in the West, Toriyama felt that there'd be a nice overlap between audiences. With that, Spawn entered the tale of Souls and Swords.
Okay. That's interesting. I always thought it was an interesting choice to have Spawn, of all people, represent Xbox. Because, you know, when you think of Xbox, obviously you think of Halo. But if the timing is right, then yeah, that makes sense. Because thinking about it, before Halo, what would represent Xbox? Like, who would you think of when you're thinking of Xbox if you're not thinking of Master Chief?
Now, some may disagree with this take, but I think his inclusion was dope as hell. Though the majority of my Soulcalibur 2 memories came from the GameCube version, I was introduced to the series through the Xbox port. I didn't know who anyone was, including Spawn, but dude just had the sauce. He looked like a more metal version of Venom, and his moveset was fire. Well, the moveset I saw, not gonna hold you, I was a serial button masher back then. Like I had my left thumb on the analog stick and my other hand was straight abusing any buttons my fingers could reach. Spawn wasn't Todd's only contribution though. These talks with Namco also led to him creating a completely original character for the game, Necrid. Now, I could praise Spawn for days, but Necrid, I don't know. Even when I first played the game, he just felt generic. Like some random bad guy you'd see in an 80s action cartoon like He-Man.
I see. Well, his personality aside, just the idea of getting to design your own unique character into this fighting game, because, you know, we're taking one of your characters, so this is the deal. You want to try it out? Sure. Of course I'd try that out. Not sure how much of a fan Todd is of fighting games, but I think this would be pretty neat if it was me.
Interestingly enough, a couple of days after writing that line, I found out that gaming publication Game Now also compared him to a He-Man character.
Oh.
Crazy coincidence. Maybe it's a chess piece. As for the PlayStation 2 version, Namco originally planned for Cloud fucking Strife.
That would be
Imagine
awesome.
that. They were trying to put two of the most well-known swordsmen in gaming history in a weapon-based fighter. Unfortunately, the collab fell through at the last minute.
Not interested.
So Namco relied on one of their
Just saying though, like Cloud versus Link would go hard. Although I think that is currently happening though in Smash, right? I'm pretty sure both of them are in the game. But in a 3D weapon-based fighter? I don't think so. Not yet, at least.
IPs and chose Tekken Heihachi as the PS2 guest character. Now, when you look at this as a fighting game player, it seems pretty odd to add a martial artist who prides himself on his hands into a game all about weapons.
Yeah.
But that's no fun. From a lore standpoint, it's actually kind of scary how much sense this makes. This is a man who deflected missiles with his bare limbs. Actually, fuck that.
Okay. We gotta learn about Tekken someday. I know there's been people asking for the Tekken lore deep dive, but I want to make sure I complete a certain series that I'm checking out first before jumping around. All I do know about the Tekken lore, though, is that it is very, very crazy. Like, things go batshit insane. And there's a logical reasoning why there's like bears and kangaroos and like a live training dummy or whatever also as part of the roster. Not really sure how all that comes to be, but I suppose we'll learn about that someday.
This is a man who tanked Akuma's Raging Demon. I fully believe that Heihachi would be a problem for anybody in the Soulcalibur 2 roster. In fact, I feel like he may be the only one here with a soul strong enough to conquer Soul Edge. Look.
Wait, really? Legitimately? I suppose adding him to a weapon-based fighter, somebody who doesn't use weapons, is kind of odd. Unless if you consider the fact that maybe Heihachi's weapon is himself. Like his body is a weapon.
Look me in my eyes right now and tell me Heihachi does not have the soul of a king. Anyway, with all this going for it, Soulcalibur 2 launched for arcades in 2002 and for consoles in 2003. But did it manage to reach the heights of its predecessor? Well, not really. But I'd say this because Soulcalibur was just a next level experience for its time. Soulcalibur 2 was an improved version of a formula folks already knew, so it didn't hit as much.
Hello there. This is Zero from the future. After having lost my electricity for 5 hours in the middle of a Soulcalibur recording. Fun. But yeah, apologies for that weird cut there, dudes. It is what it is. And there's also an incoming thunderstorm, so I don't even know if this recording is gonna last long enough. Please, dear God. I hope it does. This is definitely gonna lead into a delay of the upload schedule, but it is what it is, I guess. Mother Nature always wins.
Don't get it twisted though. The title was still received extremely well. On Metacritic, it averaged over 90% for each console release, with the GameCube version scoring the highest cause Link. In a GameSpot review, Greg Kasavin said,
yeah, why does it have 1 point higher? Is it legitimately just Link? It's just the one deciding factor?
It's certainly one of the most refined, most accessible, and best looking 3D fighting games to date. And it's squarely the best game in its class for the Xbox and GameCube. Similar to its predecessor, it also won Console Fighting Game of the Year at the 7th Annual Interactive.
Nani? Def Jam Vendetta? I feel like I've heard of Def Jam before, but I don't know anything about it. And VF4 was there too. War of the Monsters? WWE SmackDown? Interesting picks. I don't know anything about any of those games. But I mean, Soulcalibur 2 is kind of like that title that you hear about all the time. Touted as like the best in the series. I have it on NSO, so I should definitely give it more of a shot now that I played more Soulcalibur.
Achievement Awards. Along with that, at the first ever Spike Video Game Awards, it won in the most addictive game category. Now, as someone who got to experience this game during its early days, I can truly say that all this praise was more than deserved.
I'm curious as to like how exactly it was addictive. I'm assuming maybe like the single player mode, because I can certainly see myself getting sucked into that for a very long time. And I think I was mentioning this through the intro too. I'm sorry, I can't remember. For you guys, it was probably a couple of minutes ago. For me, it was like yesterday. So in Soulcalibur 6, I really loved just farming for the cosmetics essentially. So, and honestly, that's what I love doing in basically any game that allows you to do that. My friends and I are still searching for that multiplayer game, that MMO-like game, where we get to farm for cosmetics, because that is the biggest motivator for all of us.
Soulcalibur 2 just felt right. Movement was tight, and the sound design and visuals made each match feel like some epic choreographed battle scene. Even now, this shit slaps. I haven't had this much fun recording game footage in a long time. I'm probably still playing Soulcalibur 2 as you're watching this.
Awesome.
Oh, and that narrator though? Homie was
yeah.
killing it in the VO booth. Every time he hit you with his little monologue, it felt like you were entering a destiny-defining duel.
Battles risking the soul. A man becomes a slave to his own ambition.
And last but not
Such a good narrator voice. This is like the narrator voice in a way. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Like all narrator voices are based off of this. That's definitely not the case, but yeah, it just sounds so good.
not least, that goddamn intro. Oh my god. It is still my personal top 5 video game openings of all time. And I didn't know this when I was young, but the majority of the scenes actually contain lore, like the battle with Maxi and Astaroth, as well as the quick confrontation between Taki and Ivy. This shit is 2 minutes of peak cinema. But speaking of lore, I think it's about time we get to it. So without much further ado,
That's
let's
what we're here
continue
for.
the Soulcalibur timeline. But first, quick recap. At the center of our story is the demonic blade, Soul Edge. Once, it was just a regular two-handed sword, but after years of indulging in the violence of war, it learned to eat the souls of its victims, thus earning its name. Whoever dared to wield it would be corrupted by its true will, Inferno. From there, they'd mindlessly hunt for souls for their new master. So technically, Soul Edge wielded the wielder. In an effort to stop its chaotic rampage, a fragment of it was purified using the soul of the Hero King, Algol, and 2 legendary artifacts, Kali Yuga and Dvapara Yuga. They call this new blade Soulcalibur. For thousands of years, whenever Soul Edge appeared to stir up trouble, a hero wielding Soulcalibur would rise from the shadows to stop it. By the mid-1500s, the evil sword landed in the hands of the Spanish pirate Cervantes, and unfortunately it has the annoying ability to read the soul of its vessel, and turn into a weapon that best suits them. Cervantes just so happens to be a dual wielder, so he got 2 Soul Edges. He terrorized the seas as the weapon's tool, until he slaughtered a Spanish port town. Then, after sleeping with some random lady there, he stopped his killing spree for a couple of years. Fast forward
I think that was like the biggest plot twist in the previous video that we checked out. I was not expecting that at all, but in hindsight, I probably should have seen it coming.
to 1583, and he's finally defeated by Sophitia, a simple baker's daughter, and Taki, a ninja from the Fuma clan. Also, I neglected to mention this in my last video, but the Fuma ninja clan was an actual thing. They were a small group of guerrilla fighters who were active between 1467 and 1615.
Cool.
While many clans served various feudal lords, it's said that the Fuma were loyal to the Hojo clan for generations, helping them become a unifying presence within this tumultuous period in Japanese history. Anyway, during the battle with Cervantes, Sophitia managed to shatter one of his soul edges. To keep track of this event, we can call it the Break of 83. However, the last one
The Break of 83? Is that the Break of 83?
was found by the German mercenary Siegfried. Under normal circumstances, he'd
Siegfried,
probably leave it
no.
alone. But he kinda killed his dad by accident a while back. So his
Yeah.
mind ain't doing too good. He picked that shit up and turned into Soul Edge's new puppet, Nightmare. The transformation released a wave of evil energy across the planet in an event known as the Evil Seed Catastrophe. With that, Nightmare proceeded to terrorize the hell out of Europe. He was joined by the golem Astaroth, the warrior turned lizard man Aeon, and the alchemist Ivy. Then in 1586, 3 unlikely heroes, Kilik, Maxi, and Xianghua, raid the demonic knight stronghold in Ostrheinsburg. There, Maxi killed Astaroth to avenge his crew that the golem murdered. But in retaliation, Ares, the golem's boss, commanded the ground to eat him up. Kilik and Xianghua managed to take down Nightmare, but at the cost of the Dvapara Yuga. This just left Inferno, but instead of ending things in this realm, he dragged them into his home. Astral Chaos. As a reminder, this place also holds all the souls that he's eaten since its creation. Fortunately, it's revealed that Xianghua was unknowingly carrying Soulcalibur.
Kind of reminds me of like the warp a little bit from 40k, where all the souls go, but I suppose this is his own little stomach, essentially.
Throughout her whole adventure. Using it, she slays the evil spirit, the shattering Soul Edge. However, she was forced to leave her spirit sword to help Killik out of Astral Chaos, bringing us to where we are now. Nightmare is no more, and the world is safe. But breaking Soul Edge within the realm they were in caused the shards to spread all over the world, and each piece is still budding with evil energy. So that's about to be a big problem real soon. For now though, let's check in on the Soulcalibur roster and see how everyone's doing. After Xianghua and Killik left the castle, they went searching for Maxi but failed to find him. So they assume he died, then they go their separate ways. Killik returns to his sensei.
I mean, especially during those times, if you don't see somebody for that long, you do hear no news about them, it's probably a safe assumption. But we all know he's gonna be back. I wonder if there are any like canonical character deaths though throughout Soulcalibur. I don't know if Nightmare really counts, cause I'm pretty sure he comes back. I guess Cervantes? Cervantes dies, right? And I mean, I know that there's plenty of other characters that are dead throughout the lore of the first game, but I'm talking about like playable characters within the roster.
The Edge Master to continue his training in purifying evil energy. Xianghua returns to the Ming Empire, but her situation is a little complicated. The Emperor originally sent her to bring back Soul Edge, calling it the Sword of Salvation, but her journey made it clear that there was no salvation in this sword, only souls. She decides that no one, not even the Emperor, should obtain it. So she lies about the result of her mission and just tells him that she failed.
Okay, I'm assuming you're going to get punished for failing or be disgraced forever, despite you being a hero who's basically saved the world. But imagine the Soul Edge getting into the hands of an emperor like that. That would be horrific.
This pisses the guy off. Yet another one of his search teams has come back with nothing. So he strips her of her Royal Guard title and demotes her to a menial role. Regardless, she still believes she did the right thing. Hell, I do too.
Yeah.
If this timeline has taught us anything, it's that Soul Edge is the only one that wins when it's found. Well, unless you have the soul of a king. As for the last of the trio, Maxi ends up in a random village. There he gets some much needed rest because Astaroth left them all kinds of messed up. When it comes to the rest of Nightmare Squad, Aeon/Lizardman actually benefited from Nightmare's loss. It woke him up from the trance he was in, so now he doesn't have the mind of some feral beast. Unfortunately, he's still a lizard though. Damn. And once he realizes he'll never be the same man he was, he goes down a dark, dark path. But that doesn't become important until Soulcalibur 3. Which reminds me, I completely forgot to mention this in my last video, but remember how he kidnapped Rock's adopted son, Bangu, for the Feegle Sestimus cult? Yeah, Rock ended up beating his ass and saving his son before the fight with Nightmare even started, so they're all good. Just thought I should keep all my Rock fans updated. As for Ivy, last we left her, Astaroth revealed that her blade was made thanks to the very same Soul Edge she was trying to destroy. Additionally, Taki revealed that her father is Cervantes. This double whammy breaks her. She returns home and locks herself in her lab. Meanwhile, Taki goes to where the battle with Nightmare happened, hoping to destroy Soul Edge.
I mean, honestly, understandable. It's one of those moments where you spend your entire life doing a thing and then discover that it was all a sham and you were working for the very thing that you wanted to destroy. I would be messed up. I think anybody would be. But I know she returns, so in what sort of fashion does that happen? In what sort of role?
The whole reason why she came here was to try to offset the evil energy coming from her blade, Mekimaru. However, after noticing that she missed the smoke, she leaves to just master Mekimaru on her own. As a reminder, not only is her blade naturally cursed, but she also infused it with the Soul Edge shard a while ago. Merely holding back its energy exhausts her, so mastering it is a huge deal. Yoshimitsu also arrived at the final battlefield a little too late. He was looking for the demonic blade to take down Nobunaga and everyone who conspired against his former clan, the Manji. However, throughout his journey in Europe, he witnessed the many places that were completely devastated by Nightmare. He concluded that giving into his thirst for vengeance would make him no different than his enemies.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness that he realizes this before going through with it. Because most characters will only realize that after the fact, and then they'll be like, well, now what? I fucked up.
Plus, Nobunaga's already dead, and the Fuma's on the brink of destruction thanks to their leader going batshit crazy. If he just chills and waits, the universe will get revenge for him. So his goal eventually changed to taking down the man responsible for all the bloodshed. But after leaving the empty castle, he notices his sword is infected with evil energy. So his new goal is to purify it. But get this, When the guy finally gets a chance to rest, Voldo runs into him and confuses his sword for Soul Edge, so he steals it and runs back to his money pit. Once Yoshimitsu wakes up, he makes it his mission to find his sword. The fewer people we have running around with cursed weapons, the better. Moving on to another swordsman, Mitsurugi is once again struck with bad luck. The whole reason why he went looking for Soul Edge was because the rifle made its debut in Japan, and he thought that was a coward's way of becoming a soldier. But since he embarked on his quest, he failed to find it, then got shot for trying to take on the gun anyway. This time he fails yet again, and loses track of Nightmare cause, you know, he's gone. But he already got this far and honestly doesn't feel like traveling all the way back to Japan. So he stays in Europe working as a mercenary, even though he has trouble understanding what everyone's saying. As you probably guessed, Hwang Sung-gyung and Sung-mina fail their Soul Edge retrieval quest too. Fortunately though, upon finding Sung-mina, Hwang discovers that the legendary Sword of Salvation is actually evil. So he drags the girl back to Korea with him because there's no point in finding something like that. Especially when Japanese invaders are still giving his homeland trouble. However, when he discloses what he learned to his superiors, they demote his ass. You sent this man to find the sword. Then he comes back with groundbreaking information about how it could be dangerous. Yet, you punish him? Crazy.
You say crazy. I say, yeah, that's how that would go. Like, you didn't achieve the results that I wanted. Like, my guys, you're just sitting your asses here back at home being all high and mighty while the other people go out there and actually get shit done. But of course, you have final say in everything. I guess that's just how the world works, but it sucks.
Crazy behavior. Then again, should I be surprised? Looking back at human history, this kind of stuff tracks. But 100%. They don't only demote him. They take away his sword, Blue Thunder, as well. So he just stays in his master's dojo until he's needed again. As for Sung-mina, nothing is written about what she does the moment she returns to Korea, but from what happened in the last 2 games, we can assume that she continues her training while constantly getting hit on by boys. On the flip side, once Sophitia hears that Nightmare is donezo, she returns home and marries her man Rothian. They eventually have 2 kids, Pyrrha and Patroclus. On the flip side, Cervantes finds...
Oh, I think those are the characters that show up in Soulcalibur. I forget which one it is, but it's the one that people don't really like the roster of because it's just all the kids and none of the familiar faces, which is a shame. I recall having conversations similar to this in regards to like other fighting game series that have tried to do something similar, or just as like a theoretical of would you like to see your characters evolve and change or like get replaced by somebody new. And I think it really comes down to presentation and how it's handled. Also, just like completely replacing everybody with somebody new probably isn't the way to do that. I think it's more so introducing the new characters alongside the old and having them have some sort of unique identity to them. Not just basically be the old character, but a different person whose personality you don't really enjoy. Because at that point, instead of like introducing a new character, it becomes a replacing the old character or erasing the memory of the old character, which fans are not going to be too happy with.
Shards of Soul Edge that resonate with the ones within him. In case you don't remember, some of the Soul Edge shards from the Break of 83 got into him as well as Sophitia. The Evil Seed catastrophe gave them enough energy to revive him. After finding these new shards, they meld into an incomplete sword. So he goes looking for more to finish it. And last but not least is our boy Nightmare/Siegfried. Yeah, I lied when I said he was dead. Siegfried gets spat out of Astral Chaos in 1587, and this time he's back to his senses. But now he's fully aware that he's the one that killed his dad.
Yeah.
Good. And he's aware of all the people he killed as Nightmare. So is Siegfried really doing better? No.
You know, at the very least, he's not being controlled by an evil entity anymore. But I don't know if a therapist can help him with any of this. Like him talking about his feelings, I don't think it's really going to get him anywhere. He's just going to have to sort this out on his own. I am quite intrigued by the concept though. Like that's a concept of a character that I would like to see play out. I can't recall if I have already seen that, but it's like a character who has a past that completely horrifies them, but it almost feels distant to them because they weren't really that person, you know? And it's like they're slowly remembering that that's who they were, but at the current state of time, that's not who they are. But like, how do they deal with that sort of memory, that shadow constantly looming over them of how they were, who they used to be? There's probably plenty of characters out there in media with something similar to that. And I guess like the easiest example would be like war veterans, right? A similar struggle, but not quite. I think Siegfried kind of fits more my idea of what that kind of character would be. So I'm very intrigued to see his story from here on in.
Not really. To make up for the insane number of sins he committed, he goes looking for a place to hide what remains of Soul Edge. This goes terribly though, because the damn sword still has a hold on him. Every time he falls asleep, Nightmare comes out to play and kills everyone near him. Then once Siegfried wakes up, he's met by the multiple corpses that his alter ego left behind. So he tries to stay awake 24/7, but that doesn't work.
Holy shit, dude. Bro's already going through it, and now he's not getting any sleep. This is a horrific combo. This is not going to go well. The poor dude can't catch a break, but, you know, he'll kind of also put himself into this position. People make mistakes, though, and I think Siegfried at least deserves some sort of redemption. At least some hope. I don't think he'll ever be able to atone for everything that he did, but at least to not be that person anymore, to not be the monster of Nightmare.
And eventually, Nightmare just ends up taking full control. That's crazy to
Not
think
again.
about. The first game introduced Siegfried as a pretty important character. Yet in the next 2 games, he's not even in the roster because he's possessed. I know that Nightmare's and Siegfried's movesets are identical, but like, imagine being a Siegfried main during the time Soul Blade came out and never being able to see your boy in a right state of mind for years. Like, Siegfried doesn't officially come back until Soulcalibur 3. Soul Edge came out in arcades in 1996. Soulcalibur 3 didn't come out until 2005, which means there were players who waited 9 freaking years just to see this man return to normal. But with that, we're now ready to enter 1590, the eventful year where Soulcalibur 2 takes place. So let's hop into this next chapter and discuss what goes down during this game. Alright, so this is how we'll do this. We'll start by introducing all the canon newcomers to the roster. Then we'll get into the non-canon cameo fighters, and follow that up with how the returning cast gets involved in the Soulcalibur 2 plot. After that, we'll wrap things up with how this game ends. Cool? Cool. Let's begin with the other baker's daughter from Athens, Cassandra Alexandra. One day in 1590, Rothian brings home a strange piece of metal given to him by a random customer. Not only does it irritate Sophitia's old Soul Edge wound, but it also causes her kids to fight over it aggressively. Now, Cassandra already witnessed her sister go through it in the last game. She's not about to let that happen again. So she grabs the shard and marches her way over to the shrine of Hephaestus, the Greek god of the forge. Then she blacks on him.
Yo, Hephaestus, the hell's your problem? You had my sister search for this damn demonic sword twice now. Yet, now she's at home struggling with her kids, and you're quiet? How can you claim to be an almighty god and be so useless?
Damn.
I know you hear me, bitch.
Suddenly, she notices Sophitia's old weapon, the Omega Sword. It was blessed by Hephaestus to face off against Soul Edge. When she puts the fragment near it, it wails as if it's afraid of the thing. Thanks to this, she finally realizes that this shard is from the Cursed Blade. Ever since they entered this realm—
Oh no, the shard wails, I'm assuming. Yeah, it wasn't too hard to figure out that was the Cursed Blade.
Folks from all over the world have been trying to collect them all, which only helped them spread more. So she grabs the sword and shield and ventures off to destroy them all. That way, neither her sister nor her family will ever be burdened by this shit again. You gotta respect the drive, because Cassandra isn't a warrior either. In fact, she's so bad, she often broke her weapons because of her crude handling. Now she's off to stop this blade of mass destruction solely to protect her fam. That's a dope-ass sister, right?
I mean, yeah, props for that. You can certainly see that she's not an experienced fighter. Like, comparatively to somebody like Setsuka or Taki, right? When you see her moveset in Soulcalibur 6, she's kind of just wielding the blade and sitting on your face, and some people probably enjoy that, but also undeniably very powerful.
However, before we continue, we gotta speak on Sophitia's and Cassandra's fighting style. Because while neither of them started as warriors, it looks like they did master some form of self-defense after embarking on their journeys.
You'd have to.
Upon further research, I saw they're both practitioners of the Athenian style. According to the Soulcalibur 4 limited edition guide, only those blessed by Athena were able to master it. However, it's become a lost art due to the majority of the Greek pantheon being forgotten by society. Thanks to the fact that Sophitia is a devout believer and was blessed by Hephaestus, it looks like she somehow downloaded the style without actually learning it. Then she
This is just a full-on Matrix style of downloading the martial arts into my brain.
Proceeded to improve with each enemy she faced. Cassandra sadly doesn't believe in the gods as much as her sister, but the purity and clarity of her soul won her some points. So taking up the weapons blessed by Hephaestus imbues the Athenian style within her too. However, due to her gung-ho attitude, her style is a bit more aggressive compared to her sister's.
You can
Now
definitely
let's move
see
to
it,
someone
yeah.
with an even more messed up backstory, Charade. Before he became, well, this, he was just a simple man. A man so unimportant, we don't know his name or even where he's from. The dude was tired of war, and adventure was calling his name. But
It
he
is
made the
Vinland
poor
Saga.
mistake of getting enticed by legends of Soul Edge. These stories led him to discover a few shards of the sword. Bandits heard rumors about his little collection, so they killed him and threw him in a river. They
Shit.
weren't going to take away what he worked so hard to achieve though. He held on to the pieces of metal as he sank. Then as if controlled by his obsession, his blood fused with them and completely consumed what was left of him. The amalgam rises later as the being named Charade. And I'm just now realizing this, but this thing's like a baby inferno. The brown bony body reminds me of him, and the giant
definitely
eye in the
see
middle
it.
is a clear reference to the one in Soul Edge. From here, the being joins the search for the evil shards with the goal of making itself whole again. Though it doesn't have an innate fighting style, it's able to read the souls of its enemies and copy theirs. Edgemaster and Inferno also mimicked other fighting styles, but unlike them, Charade doesn't get a power boost when it does it. Now let's talk about Necrid, who, strangely enough, made his first lore appearance over 1,000 years ago. All the way back in 400 BC, he defeated the owner of Soul Edge. However, when he reached
Oh.
for the sword, Inferno appeared and dragged him into astral chaos. Even though the spirit was in a weakened state, he filled Necrid with so much fear that the warrior ran away. However, this left him trapped within the dimension until the Battle of Ostrheinsburg in 1586. Since Soulcalibur weakened Soul Edge, he managed to escape the realm, but he was tainted by Astral Chaos's evil energy.
I mean, being in there for that long, that makes sense. But also, what was he eating in that realm? Is there any sort of sustenance, or maybe time just works differently there? Perhaps Necrid just doesn't eat in the first place.
Which is why he looks the way he does. And to add on to the L's, merely staying in this realm causes him pain. He traveled across the land slaying multiple other warriors, assuming they were enemies. Eventually, he stumbles upon a Soul Edge shard, and to his surprise, it eases his pain, so he embarks on a quest to find the rest. I'd mention his fighting style here, but according to Soulcalibur 2, the complete
I wonder if it eases his pain because he was stuck there for so long. He does say that he can't really stay here because it hurts to even be within this realm anymore. Probably because he was over there for too long. So like a shard of home giving off some sort of energy that makes him feel a little bit better. I suppose that makes sense.
official guide, he just uses his own style. I can tell you that his weapon is named Maleficus, and it seems to have come from Astral Chaos. Moving on, next we have Raphael Sorel. Born in what is now France, Raphael grew up during a time when his homeland
the
was
fencer?
embroiled in religious strife. This most likely refers to the real-life conflicts that happened between the Protestants and Roman Catholics in the region between 1562 and 1598. As he aged, he learned how to handle the rapier in a style known as la rapier de Sorel. He also learned about medicine. However, most importantly, as a member of the prestigious Sorel family, he came to understand the dark inner workings of the nobles within his country. He grew to be an unemotional and calculating individual, which earned him many enemies. But shit really hit the fan when the Evil Seed event happened. He killed a crazed noble out of self-defense, thus giving all of his ops a reason to take him out. And to make matters worse, his own family threw him under the bus to protect themselves. With no one in his corner, he ran away and hid himself in the slums. There, at the brink of death, he was saved by a young girl named Amy. She saw it as a simple deed, but Raphael saw it as
I know who Amy is. She's in 6. She does look a lot younger here though. But I guess it's a resetting of the timeline, so maybe things change a bit. Did not know that their lore intersected like this.
much more. All his life he had to watch his own back. This was the first person who selflessly did something kind for him, so he devoted himself to making her life better. While living with her in the slums, he slowly came to realize that all the values he had as a noble were pointless. They were soulless individuals, and the people who suffered under them also became soulless, as all they did was complain. This war-torn, bleak world was no place for him to raise Amy, so he used his upbringing to his advantage to gain the trust of another rich noble. Once the time was right, he poisoned him so he and Amy could fully enjoy his riches. Unfortunately, due to the girl's life in the slums, she had trouble connecting with the outside world. Regardless, Raphael never gave up on giving her the life he felt she deserved.
Okay, you know, it's sweet that he does so much for Amy. Kind of fucked up that we messed up this other noble dude. But maybe he also wasn't that great of a guy, who knows?
One day in 1590, he finds a letter talking about the Evil Seed catastrophe, and it mentions Soul Edge. Then, a wild idea occurs to him. What if one of these nobles happened to stumble upon Soul Edge? They'd surely start a war over it and end up killing each other off. Sure, some
Exactly.
commoners would die in the process, but that would all be worth it if he could secure the life he wants for Amy. With that, he joins the hunt for the shards to carry out this absolutely sadistic plan. You
see.
had me at the taking down the nobles part, but I'm not a fan of commoners being collateral damage.
Yeah, this seems more like a anything for Amy. Who cares about anybody else, right? If the world will shun me, then I shall shun the world. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do what I want. But yeah, like, it's something that I appreciate about the series so far is that these aren't exactly the greatest of people with the best of intentions all the time. It makes for more interesting characters.
Next up for the newcomers, we've got Talim, the girl who talks to the
Talim.
wind. She's part of a group of shamans from the Philippines who secluded themselves in the mountains due to the West migration to Southeast Asia. And once again, this is an actual part of history. Spain began colonizing the area during the 1500s, forcing their culture on the natives. Its name actually comes from the Spanish king, Philip II. Talim and her people praised the wind deity, but due to Spain's influence, faith in the god waned. Talim was still a devout.
I see. And also, I never knew that about the Philippines, actually. I wonder if they still have like a native name that only they are aware of or familiar with.
Believer though. And as the granddaughter of the village elder, she was raised as the group's last priestess of wind. When the evil seed catastrophe happened, no one in her village was affected except for her. She felt the evil aura's presence in the wind, and it knocked her out for days. She woke up later crying her eyes out with no idea why. Given Talim's kind and innocent nature, I assume she felt the pain of everyone affected by the event. Then, in 1590, a merchant from the west brings a soul edge fragment to her home, calling it a vitality charm. She immediately
Sure,
recognizes
buddy.
the evil aura and decides that she needs to bring it back to where it belongs. Many in the village are apprehensive about this idea because she's only 15, but her parents feel that this journey will only build her purity and love for nature. Or, you know, she could die. That's a big possibility, mom and dad.
I mean, look at Ash's mom in Pokemon, just sending her 10-year-old son out on a journey to go and become the very best. So I guess that's just anime for you.
Regardless, Talim leaves her home for the first time, and to
Actually, now that I think about it, this is probably for the best for the parents, because maybe they know that they're in like an anime kind of game, and they're like, if my child doesn't leave off on a journey, then something is going to happen to me. I am going to die so that my child can develop. They need the character development. They need the motivation for that. Best to send them off now.
surprisingly, she feels no fear. She has faith that the wind will guide and protect her. As for her fighting style, it's called Wind Dance. It's an extremely agile style that appears to have originated from her clan and involves the use of elbow blades. I always thought they were bladed tonfas, but yeah, elbow blades. Her own are named Sai Salika and Loka Luha. And for the last of our newcomers, we have Hong Yun Sung. Born in Korea, this dude thought Hwang was the goat of goats. So of course, he had to train under the man's master, Sung Han Myung. However, what makes Yun Sung's style cooler to me is how he adds dynamic acrobatics and kicks to the mix. Kinda reminds me of how Mugen combined breakdancing with kendo in Samurai Champloo. As he grew stronger, he began to see Hwang as more of an obstacle to prove his strength. So when he heard that he was coming back from his Soul Edge quest, he was elated. The moment he catches him, he challenges him to a duel. But Hwang has other things to deal with, like the Japanese invaders who are still attacking their home, and the fact that the higher-ups
Kinda
don't want to
busy.
believe that Soul Edge is evil. So he denies the young warrior's request. This leaves Yun Sung depressed. Why won't his goat give him the hands? Sung Mina feels sorry for the kid, so she lends him her family heirloom, the Chinese sword known as the White Storm. Legend says that it has the ability to read the heart of the wielder. Interestingly enough, there's another blade named Blue Storm that was used by Hwang in Soul Blade. That night, Yun Sung reflects on the denied request, and realizes how selfish it was to challenge a soldier as important as Hwang when their home is in peril. And you'd think he'd take this as a lesson and go join the fight against the Japanese invaders. But no. Instead, he comes up with a plan that can take care of both of his problems.
Oh boy.
He'll find Soul Edge.
Oh,
that
of
way he can
course.
save Korea and get Hwang to acknowledge his strength.
It's like an of course. That's such a dumb idea, but of course he would do that. It's like one of those ideas that you can only come up with during that naive state of growth. You have a passion, but you're also not fully there yet. You're not really sure who you are and where you want to be in this world. So yeah, I'm gonna do some crazy shit right now to prove myself.
Yun Sung, I get it. You're 18. You're young and you're trying to make a name for yourself.
Exactly.
But I'm gonna need you to think about this for more than a couple of minutes because What kind of epiphany is this? You're gonna help?
Dude, that frontal cortex, it's just not there yet, man. We do some pretty stupid stuff as teenagers.
The war by leaving the war? If you join the fight, Huang will see your strength
They'll
on the
acknowledge you.
battlefield.
Yeah.
Where it matters. Sadly, Homie's ambitions are more blinding than the sun, and he decides to take the White Storm that doesn't belong to him on his journey too. Now, before we hop into the cameos, I want to quickly introduce 3 more characters who are only unlockable in the North American and European ports of Soulcalibur 2. Assassin, Berserker, and Lizard Man. Assassin is just a generic assassin whose style is the same as Huang's. But outside of that, there isn't much we know about him. According to Soulcalibur 2, the complete official guide, this character refers to a group of assassins hired by a powerful lord or spy from the east to locate shards of Soul Edge. I remember reading a few fan theories about how they're part of the Fuma and work for Toki, and though I have nothing that proves that, I have nothing that disproves it, so we can go with that. Berserker refers to the very
I'm assuming that we're just sort of filling out archetypes here with these characters, and they're not really like central to the plot, but they're there for people who want to play them.
various warriors who were corrupted during the Evil Seed catastrophe. Since then, they've been running around the world causing havoc. And last is the easiest of the bunch, Lizard Man. Not to be confused with Aeon. In case you don't
Completely
remember,
different.
the Feegle Sestimus cult that created Astaroth also transformed multiple humans into Lizard Men. This Lizard Man represents the group that survived after the events of Soulcalibur, and they're basically doing the same thing everyone else is doing, finding the shards. Now let's get to the cameos, and since they're not canon, we can talk about their endings too. First off, Link. His backstory mentions that he just defeated an evil magician who shrouded Hyrule in darkness, which made me want to figure out who this magician was, but it seems like a random bad guy because it goes on to say that he was being controlled by Soul Edge. Link realizes that the shards of the sword are gathering in Hyrule, and senses his presence in a different dimension, so he heads to the Soulcal world to end Soul Edge once and for all. And in his ending, he manages to do it, saving both worlds. Then he goes home to deal with Hyrule's nonsense.
Yo, this dude out here saving every single world that he's in.
For Spawn, the demon that he made a pact with, Malebolgia, sends him to the 16th century to find Soul Edge. In his ending, he completes the task, but after realizing how evil it is, he returns home without it. And lastly, Heihachi. After training with his bear and bodyguard, Kuma, he stumbles upon a Soul Edge fragment.
I knew of Kuma. I never knew that was his bodyguard too.
Aware of its origins, he gets excited and picks it up, but he accidentally cuts his hand in the process. This drags him all the way back to the 16th century. Once he realizes he's no longer in modern-day Japan, he makes it his mission to find a way home. However, he knows about the level of hands that were being thrown during this era. So while he's confused, he's also hype as hell to challenge all the warriors of this time. And cause he's Heihachi, he isn't about to use any weapons. The only thing he adds are gauntlets so he can defend himself from blades. Outside of that, my man is punching and headbutting through everything. He eventually gets to Inferno, gives him the beats by the Mishimas, then returns home. Now let's get back to the canon and talk about all the veterans of the roster.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense for what I think of when I see Heihachi, right? He's the dude who just wants a good fight, regardless of how what he has to do in order to get that fight, or who he's got to fight.
Let's start with one of the bad guys, Astaroth. In 1590, once it becomes clear that Soul Edge is making its grand return, Ares revives his golem to retrieve the blade. However, this time, he has shards of the demonic sword within him. On top of that, Ares created him directly instead of commanding his cult to do so. So he's much, much stronger now. With that, he takes his axe and goes on his new quest.
Not gonna lie, dudes, fighting Arcade Astaroth is like the biggest pain ever to fight. At least for me. I guess I'm just not used to it and his moves or how to exploit them. But man, he does just such big swings. If you get hit by any of them, it's basically over.
Oh, and here's a fun fact. Everyone in Soulcalibur 2 has an ultimate weapon and a joke weapon. Astaroth's ultimate weapon is named Thanatos, like the Greek god of death. However, his joke weapon is named after the character he gets his fighting style from, Rock. Anyway, Cervantes manages to do something wild and collects enough shards to form his own Soul Edge. But this time he has full control of his body thanks to the shards within him. With this new sword, he continues his murderous rampage. As for his daughter, Ivy has regained her resolve. During the time she locked herself in her lab, she accepted the fact that she and her sword are connected.
Okay, not gonna lie though, Ivy in casual wear looking perfect. she looks really damn good.
She renames it Valentine as a testament to her drive to keep moving forward as a human, even though she has cursed blood running through her veins. Once she gains info on the shards that spread around the planet, she heads out to destroy all of them. Keelik also joins the hunt for the fragments, but he's had time to really think about how to destroy Soul Edge once and for all. Unlike many other people, he realized that brute force ain't gonna cut it. Maybe the answer is purification. His Kali Yuga is able to absorb evil energy, so what if he drained Soul Edge of it and purified it over time? Now, this plan makes sense, and thanks to his 4 years of training, Keelik is much better at neutralizing and purifying evil energy.
That's good, but we're also talking about the Soul Edge here. I think that's a different kind of evil. A whole different breed of evil. I'd love to see this work, but also kind of doubtful.
However, doing so is a monumental task.
Yeah.
He still hasn't purified all the evil within him yet. Regardless,
there you go.
he dedicates himself to this new goal, in honor of the family and friends he accidentally killed during the evil seed catastrophe. On his journey, he runs into his old friend Xianghua, and they bicker about who should destroy the blade. But what's Xianghua even doing here? Last we heard about her, she got demoted. Well, earlier this year, she found out that the Ming Emperor sent soldiers to attack a castle near her hometown. He accused them of planning a revolt, but Xianghua discovered the true reason for the attack thanks to Ming spies. Apparently, one man from the second Soul Edge search team returned to the castle with the sword. However, he didn't respond to any of the messengers sent by the Emperor, and the Lord of the Castle refused to turn him over. So the Emperor assumed they were trying to keep the blade for themselves, and sent a small army to retrieve it. But even after completely destroying the place, no Soul Edge was found. Xianghua felt responsible for this whole situation because there's no way the man had the sword.
Yeah.
She destroyed it. If she revealed that when she returned from her journey 4 years ago, then maybe the castle could have been spared. The Ming Emperor sent her to
Perhaps she also likely would have been executed for being a traitor, but yeah, I could certainly see you feeling a bit responsible for that. Regardless though, I still think what she did was probably the best way to handle that. Because, yeah, it would have been way worse if they had gotten their hands on the Soul Edge, or if they knew that it was destroyed and killed her. Maybe they would have tried to go out for the shards in order to rebuild it. You don't know what would have happened. It's a case of what ifs.
investigate what was left of it, believing that her knowledge of Soul Edge would help her find it. But instead, she found a shard surging with the same evil energy of the cursed blade. She surmised that the man from the search team must have stayed here because he sensed this energy. However, her biggest epiphany was that Soul Edge still exists and is still wreaking havoc. So she left the castle to find all the shards and
destroy it
them.
again.
As for the last member of the Soulcalibur trio, Maxie tries to hop back into action once he hears rumors about Astaroth running around being a menace to society. But even after 4 years of rest, his wounds are still too much for him to handle.
Damn.
In desperation, he heads to the village's medicine man for some quick heals. But this guy decides to conduct a ritual using a Soul Edge shard to
kidding
get the
me?
job done. And the worst part is that the doctor didn't even realize what it was. Dude just saw a weird piece of metal and was like, yeah, this should work. Thanks to the
What?
ritual, Maxie is able to leave several days later, but he lost his memories of Keelik and Xianghua. Moving on, let's talk about our hopeless
I'm assuming because of the shard? I wonder how that's going to come back and how that will play a role here because he doesn't know them. Maybe it just gives us a reason for them to fight each other.
samurai, Mitsurugi. His quest brings him to a castle near the Ming Empire. There, he finds a man named Zhang Wu getting jumped by assassins. As a reminder, Zhang Wu is Li Long's rival. While Li Long was on the run from Fu Ma ninjas, he temporarily took up the name Zhang Wu to protect himself. However, this Zhang Wu is the real Zhang Wu. Since his old rival failed to retrieve Soul Edge, he was sent to find it and assassinate Li Long if he found him. But as you can see, he failed at both. The assassins tried to attack Mitsurugi, but they can't handle the Demon of Japan. Which reminds me, in my last video, I noted that his fighting style was a crude combination of his natural physical prowess, as well as swordsmanship skills he picked up along his journey. But I never mentioned what he named it. Originally in Soul Blade, it was called Tenpu Kosai Ryu, but as he gained more battle knowledge throughout the years, he changed it to Tenpu Kosai Ryu Kai, the suffix Kai meaning improved. And one more fun fact I missed. In case you didn't make the connection already, our boy Mitsurugi is based on the real-life samurai Miyamoto Musashi. Anyway, after taking down the assassins, the wounded man hands him what they were after, a Soul Edge fragment. He asks him to keep it safe, then dips. With it in hand, Mitsurugi wonders how a powerful blade like Soul Edge could break. Then he continues his travels. Moving on to Sung Mina,
So he
she
just has
decides
it?
to head out to look for Yun Sung. Her dad once again doesn't want her to leave, but by this point, he knows better than to believe she'll stay in one spot. So instead, he chooses to wish her luck on her quest, but she leaves before he gets a chance. Next up is Sophitia. Thanks to the shard Rothian brought home, she realizes that the fragments Take removed from her wound back in 1583 left residual evil energy within her body, and that energy transferred over to her kids, which explains why that shard caused him to
shit.
act out. So she enters the hunt a couple of weeks after Cassandra. But since her sister took her weapon, Rothian had to use blessed ore from Hephaestus to make another replica of the Omega Sword. So here's another thing I kinda missed last time. After the big fight in 1583, the original Omega Sword was too damaged to remain useful, so Hephaestus took it back. Then in Soulcalibur, Rothian used the ore the god gave him to make a replica of it, as well as the Elk Shield. That's what Cassandra stole. Or rather, just the Omega Sword, because in Soulcalibur 2, her shield is called something completely different. So this time, Rothian either used leftover blessed ore or more blessed ore granted by the god to make a whole new Omega Sword and Elk Shield. Hephaestus pretty much got the whole family attached to Soul Edge now. Shit's crazy.
Yeah. Hephaestus is really good at using people, apparently. Still kind of a silly thing to have a bunch of people go after the Soul Edge, but none of them working together. It's like, come on, man. Wasn't that what happened to Aeon, too? That he was sent out to search for it by Hephaestus, but then ended up lost in the middle of a desert, that experimented on and turned into a lizard man. Was not a great ending for him. But yeah, for Sophia, this has got to be kind of very personal, actually. Not just because she destroyed Soul Edge, so she feels like, yeah, maybe I got to go back and finish the job, but now it's a part of her children, too. And that mama bear instinct probably gonna kick in here.
Anyway, let's move on to Sophitia's old ally, Taki. Thanks to years of training, she mastered Mekimaru, and thanks to the shit ton of Fuman ninjas Toki sent after her, she had a limitless supply of punching bags to practice with. However, she was still in Europe, so she wondered why these guys were sent so far just to search for a blade that she presumed was destroyed. Then one day, while going through the belongings of one of her many enemies, she finds a Soul Edge shard. This not only reveals that the sword is still alive, but that Toki's on the lookout for its fragments. Homie already lost his mind. If he gets the Soul Edge fragments, it's clipped for everyone. So instead of hunting for the rest of them...
Okay, didn't want to pause there because, goddamn, this artwork, it's kind of crazy, man. But just looking at some of the outfits in Soulcalibur 6 and I guess Ivy's whole design, Taki's design too, Soulcalibur is a very cultured series.
She changes her target to her former father. Now for the biggest ride or die in the series.
Voldo.
Over the last 4 years, he hasn't heard shit from his dead master, which should be a good thing. That means he completed his lifelong goal, right? Well, he soon hears rumors about the Soul Edge shards and realizes that his master abandoned him because he brought back the wrong sword. So he leaves the money pit once again. His timing sucks though because this whole time, Yoshimitsu was planning something big. While searching for his sword, he found a new purpose in serving the weak and underprivileged. This motivated him to devise a Robin Hood-ass scheme to rob the money pit and give the riches to the poor.
Oh shit.
While everyone's out here searching for evil fragments, my man Yoshi's doing God's work.
Yeah. He's trying to help the common folk. You can't knock him for that. But Voldo leaves the exact moment Yoshimitsu goes in. Oh man, I don't know if he can forgive himself for that one.
Within the vault, he finds his old sword and a Soul Edge shard. This is when he officially names his blade Yoshimitsu. But he realizes that this shard belongs to the demonic sword, so he begins his new journey to destroy them all. And that pretty much covers everyone. So how does this all come to an end? Well, after collecting enough souls and shards, Nightmare returns to his old stomping ground in Ostrheinsburg to fully restore the blade. But an unlikely hero enters to stop him. And I'm gonna give y'all a second to guess who it is, because when I found out, I was baffled. Like, it was the absolute last person I expected.
Who could it be? My bets are on Link. Yeah, no, definitely not. An unlikely hero? What if it's Cervantes? That could be kind of funny.
You can put your guesses in the comments, or if you're in the premiere, put it in chat. But if you know...
Waiting for comment, yeah. I would pause the video, man.
Done? Okay, cool. The dude who comes in to challenge Nightmare is none other than Raphael Sorrel. When I first played this game, I swore he was one of the bad guys. Yet he's technically the hero of this title. This highlights one of the reasons why I love the way they set up this story. Because yeah, there are characters who are pivotal to the overall lore, like Sophitia, Taki, Kilik, Xianghua, but there is no definitive main character of the series. 1 second, you can have...
That is true. I have called Siegfried the main character, but he's not really. He's just the dude who has a tragic backstory and keeps on getting consumed by the Soul Edge. Which is probably why he's so iconic to the series, because, like, you know, you think of Nightmare when you think of Soulcalibur. That's one of the characters that you're going to know of, more than likely. And Siegfried and the whole turning into Nightmare thing just makes him connected to that. But I mean, like, Xianghua, right? She was the one who destroyed the sword in the first game. And then we have a new character who showed up here to become the quote-unquote main character to challenge the Soul Edge. But that's all set up within the lore of the game itself too, right? Because a warrior wielding the Soul Blade, the Soulcalibur will come in to challenge the Soul Edge. And it's not the same warrior. It's a passing of the torch kind of thing, which I just think is a cool thing. Even better is the fact that this character doesn't exactly have the most benevolent sort of motivations in order to do this. He kind of has his own thing going on that just happens to be good. And hopefully he doesn't obtain the Soul Edge and do the thing that he wanted to do, because it's not going to go well. But regardless, destroying the Soul Edge is still a good thing.
A good-natured dude like Killick as a hero, but the other you can have someone more in the gray area, like our boy over here. Anyway, Raphael makes it to Nightmare and challenges him for ownership of Soul Edge, and he gets his ass beat bad. But
Damn.
Little does Nightmare know that Raphael has a secret weapon that can defeat anything, even the plot. Someone
Really?
he cares for. The
Oh,
thought of
shit.
Amy gives him the strength to push past his limits and land one last devastating strike right in Soul Edge's eyeball. Nightmare writhes in pain, and the gate to Astral Chaos opens, allowing Soulcalibur to finally return. But Raphael's running on empty. He uses his chance to crawl back home. Luckily, he's no longer needed, as Siegfried finally manages to retake control of his body.
Oh, thank
And he
goodness.
doesn't plan on losing it again. With the quickness, he picks up Soulcalibur and stabs Soul Edge right in the face, putting
Yo, redemption. Thank goodness. Get rid of this. Get this off of me, bro. Man, Siegfried must be feeling amazing. Or honestly just relieved. He's still haunted, but at the very least, he's not Nightmare anymore. He's free from his nightmare.
both blades in
For
a
now.
deadlock known as Soul's Embrace. But this isn't the end. The swords may be silent now, but soon they'll wake up and open the door to a saga that will make everything that happened up until now seem like child's play. To see how this all gets worse, stay tuned for my future video covering the 4th game in the series. For now, that is a complete history and lore of Soulcalibur 2.
And that was Soulcalibur 2. I'll see. In the grand scheme of things, not too much happened. But then again, I suppose Soulcalibur 2 basically acted as like an upgrade to Soulcalibur. So there wasn't major lore plot points that happened here just yet. I'm expecting a lot to change though in Soulcalibur 3 and things to start shifting in certain directions. We'll see if they're good or bad. And I'm saying that because we kind of know like how the series turned out, but hey, there's still a revival potentially on the horizon. Because like it's just a really cool concept, a really cool idea with a lot of potential to it. We just need to tap into that potential. But anyways, my dudes, thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed your time here. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.